Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Hunter Houck, and in today's video, I'm going to be answering the question of should you get a baby or an adult reptile. I'm joined today by my lovely leopard gecko Peyton. Let's get into the video. So there's a lot of debate on whether you should get an adult reptile or a baby or juvenile reptile. So in today's video, I'll be discussing the pros and cons, as well as sharing my experiences with baby and adult reptiles, and I have invited some other awesome YouTube animal content creators onto the channel to tell you their experiences. So later on in today's video, actually, I will be sharing the experiences of Jessica Finnan from Jessica's Animal Friends, May from Medusa, Zoe from ZA Reptiles, and Bridget from BB's Beasties. So, all of these awesome creators will show you their opinions and experiences, as well as I'll share mine. That way you can kind of get a broad spectrum view of what might be right for you. Before we even get started, let me just say there are pros and cons to both juvenile and adult reptiles. So I kind of made a little list of the pros and the cons, and I'm just gonna read them to you. So for juveniles, I'll start with the pros. First, you'll get to raise them. So baby reptiles are kind of adorable, so you'll get to raise them from a baby to an adult. And they can also kind of form a bond with you. Not that reptiles actually bond, but you can be the one who tames them specifically. And 3, when you're initially purchasing them, they'll probably be a little bit, or significantly even, less expensive than going out and buying an adult. And number 4, it's kind of fun to watch them grow. Let's move on into the cons. So the first one is that juveniles are often harder to care for. So they can be picky eaters, sometimes they require a lot more specific environments, and juvenile reptiles aren't quite as forgiving. So that's one thing to definitely keep in mind. Number 2, you have to get lots of sizes of feeder insects or feeder rodents throughout their life. So say you get a baby snake, you'll have to start out with probably pinky mice, and then move up to whatever size they'll eventually get. So you'll have to buy different sizes. Same goes for a lizard. So say you get a baby leopard gecko or bearded dragon, you'll have to buy smaller sized feeder insects at first, like baby dubia roaches, and then move up to larger dubia roaches or mealworms or superworms or whatever you're using throughout their life. And Peyton just climbed down my back. Number 3, there's going to be more initial upfront costs because you're going to initially have to buy their smaller enclosure and then upgrade them to a larger enclosure. Like, say, I'm trying to think of an example. Say you have like a baby Kenyan sand boa. I've never had a Kenyan sand boa, but I've done lots of research on them. You wouldn't want to throw a baby, like fresh from their live born, so
fresh from the mother,
into a 20-gallon long enclosure. That would be too long for a brand new baby Kenyan sand boa, or too big for a brand new baby Kenyan sand boa. You'd want to start them out in a smaller enclosure and then slowly work your way up. Same as like a crested gecko. They would get stressed out in an 18 by 18 by 24 as a little hatchling, but they'll need something like that as an adult. So if you get a juvenile or a hatchling reptile, you're going to have to buy them lots of different sizes of enclosures throughout their life. You can't just start with their adult size usually. And also, say for some reason you're going to breed your reptiles, you'll have to wait longer before you can breed them. Now that we've discussed juveniles, Peyton's gonna get off my hand apparently, and we're gonna move into getting an adult reptile. Getting one when it's already like Peyton's size. So the first pro is you're not going to have to deal with the uncertainties of juveniles. Oftentimes juveniles might not want to eat, or they are a lot more susceptible to diseases and illnesses, which that's something that sometimes does happen with reptiles. So if you get an adult, you're not going to have to worry as much about that. Usually, adults are going to be easier to care for because they're not going to need as frequent feedings. That kind of moves us into the third pro of getting a reptile when it's an adult. You're not going to have to feed it quite as often, usually. Say it's an animal that's going to need fed every day as an adult, then this isn't really a pro, but say a leopard gecko, you're only going to need to feed them about twice a week as an adult, whereas a juvenile is going to need to be fed a lot more than that. Number 4, they're less fragile, so sometimes, like babies, they're just stressful to have, like a baby reptile. Right now I have a baby leopard gecko and it's like, okay, I have to be super careful. Whereas with Peyton, I can just kind of let her walk all over me because she knows what's going on. And the 5th pro of having an adult reptile is if you are going to breed them, they can be bred sooner, so you're not going to have to wait and raise them up as a baby. But I know a lot of breeders, they prefer to get a baby so that they can see what they're going to look like as a baby and then watch them grow up through adulthood. That way they know, like, they can be selling something that they're going to be proud of throughout the entire animal's life. My 6th and final pro of getting a reptile as an adult is that they won't need as many size upgrades. So you won't have to upgrade their tank as many times, and you won't have to size up their feeders quite as often as you would if you got a baby and raised it up through adulthood. Now that we've talked about the vast list of pros, let's move on to the cons. Number 1, you don't get to watch it grow. So you won't get to see it when it's a tiny little baby and feed it and watch it grow up until adulthood, like Peyton here. I raised her from a baby, but we'll talk about that here in just a minute. Number 2, they're going to be more expensive to buy. If you're looking especially for snakes, it's going to be a lot more expensive to buy an adult than it is to buy a hatchling or a juvenile. Number 3, you won't get to tame them as a juvenile. Sometimes when they're juveniles, they're going to be a lot easier to tame, so that's just something to keep in mind. But if you're buying one that's already tame, then that's not really going to be a con for you. And number 4, you won't get to have them for as many years. So reptiles, one of the appeals, to me at least, is that they live quite a while, so you get to have that bond with them for a long time. So since they already will be partially through their life, you won't get to have them for quite as many years. I'm going to be sharing my experiences with you, and then we'll move on to the awesome other reptile creators who have offered to share their stories. So right now, I'm raising a baby leopard gecko. She's, I want to say 6 grams. I have it written down somewhere, but off the top of my head, I think she's 6 grams. So it's a little stressful because it's like, uh-oh, what if she decides not to eat? She could get sick a lot quicker than if Miss Peyton here decides to go on a hunger strike. Peyton, I got her when she was 12 or 13 grams, and I've been able to raise her since then. So I've been able to see her grow, and yeah, that's awesome. And then Persephone, she has kind of a longer story, and I will link that video at the end of this video if you guys want to go watch that. Persephone is my Woodhouse's toad, by the way, for anyone who isn't as familiar with my animals. Bad news, my camera stopped recording, so if this seems like an awkward transition between 2 parts of the video,
That's because it is.
So right now I'll be sharing some clips that some other amazing creators sent to me to use in this video. So I'm going to go in alphabetical order, which means we're going to start with Bridget at bbs.beasties on Instagram and here on YouTube.
So when it comes to baby/juvenile reptiles versus adult reptiles. I do think there are pros and cons of each, and I have experience with both. So I guess without rambling on and just to kind of like give my answer, I think that adult reptiles are probably a bit easier. I do think that's very situational. It could depend highly on where the animal comes from, what kind of life they've lived before. But for the most part, adults have been handled a little bit and they're used to the interaction and they're kind of set in their ways with their eating habits and everything. It's just not as difficult to transition an adult to your routine as it is a brand new baby.
Thank you so much, Bridget, for sending in that clip. And again, you guys, be sure to go follow her on all of her social medias. I'll link them here on the screen and in the description for all of these creators. Next up, we have Jessica Finnan from Jessica's Animal Friends. So she has a YouTube channel and Instagram. Thanks again, Jessica.
So I personally prefer adult reptiles to juvenile reptiles just because adult reptiles are usually more stable in their health and their behavior, whereas juveniles can be a challenge to get to like start handling. They can also be a challenge like health-wise because like a lot of people make mistakes when it comes to juveniles, whether it be like not feeding enough or not offering proper supplements, and that can lead to health issues as an adult. With an adult, a lot of the time you know what you're getting because they're already full grown, and so it's easier to maintain them. However, there are benefits to having juveniles, such as like you get to watch them grow, which is really lovely. But in general, I just happen to prefer adults, and that's why.
Thank you so much again, Jessica. Everyone be sure to go follow her on all of her social medias as well. Next up, we have May from Medusa.
Hello everyone, my name is May, aka Medusa, and today I will be joining Hunter on his channel to answer the question of whether or not I feel adult reptiles are better to keep than juveniles, or if juveniles are better to keep than adults. For me, the answer is actually quite simple. I prefer to keep adult reptiles. I totally understand the appeal of getting a baby and raising it up to be your own. But honestly, the reality of the situation is there are so many people in the world who dip their toes into the reptile keeping world and do not expect their animals to live from 20 to 30 years. You are ultimately not only giving that animal a nice home, but you are also rewarding yourself with an animal where you will be able to make mistakes with, and there will be forgiving aspects, whereas with babies there are no forgiving aspects. If you mess up, you're messing up big time in their growth, which is why I would say adult reptiles are better to keep than juvies.
Thank you so much, May, for sending in that awesome clip. Everyone be sure to go follow her on all her social medias as well. And finally, we have Zoe from ZA Reptiles. Thank you so much, Zoe, for sending in this clip.
I personally prefer to keep adult reptiles. I prefer larger reptiles, so once they're full grown and they're as big as they're going to get, I really enjoy them at that stage of life. Also, when they're an adult, you know what their temperament's going to be, you know how their personality is going to be because they've grown up and they've decided how they're going to act. I also feel like there's some issues that can happen when you're trying to deal with babies, trying to get them to the adult stage. So once they're in an adult stage, I feel like there's a lot of stress that's gone from trying to raise them up to that stage.
Thanks again, Zoe. Everyone be sure to go follow her on Instagram and YouTube. And if you need some reptile products, she actually has an Etsy shop called Herpetology. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I bought some coasters from her. An unboxing video of them will actually be coming very soon. Thanks again to all these awesome people who sent in their experiences and opinions for me to use in this video. Be sure to go follow everyone on all of their social medias, which will be linked down in the description. Okay guys, that concludes this video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. That seriously helps me grow this channel. At the time that I'm filming this, we're only like a few subscribers away from 500. And that seriously means a lot to me. If you guys would please subscribe, that would mean the world. Also, if you want to see more of my animals, be sure to go follow me on Instagram at HunterHouckOfficial. Thanks again for watching, you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Peyton says goodbye too.